Deputy Speaker.
Order.
Item 1, resumption of debate on the address of thanks.
Mr. Lewison.
Sir, I declare my interest as the Chief Executive of ACRES, a civil society organization. Sir, our President spoke about the importance of fostering a compassionate and caring society and a giving society where everyone lends a helping hand. Beyond the dollars and cents, renewing our economy, strengthening our fiscal position, which is important to our survival, the hardware of this nation is equally important. How we care for one another, how we make sure no one is left behind, how we speak up for a better Singapore, and how we have a culture of giving are crucial in the next chapters of the Singapore story. My late father taught me to always give, and in his eulogy, I said that Daddy gave more than he received. And that ultimately was his strongest philosophy in life, a philosophy I hold dear to my heart, and one I'll impart to my daughter as well. It was with this philosophy that I entered politics, and the quote I used in my candidate video was, "There is beauty in giving more than receiving." This spirit of giving is very much alive in Singapore, and I see it in my work as a civil society activist for the past 17 years, and as an MP for the past 3 years. I see it almost every week when I meet my legislative assistants. Perhaps the most common question I'm asked now is, how on earth do I speak up so much in Parliament? How do I find the time to research and draft so many speeches and questions? For this, I have to thank Melissa. Melissa has a full-time job, is actively involved in humanitarian work, and is also my chief legislative assistant. If there's just one word to describe her, it is that she is amazing. But she doesn't do this alone. She and my 6 other legislative assistants, Charmaine, Karen, Sue, Roy, Xingling, and Rachel, embody the spirit of speaking up and this spirit of giving. And like Melissa, they too are amazing. Despite having full-time commitments, they give their time and energy towards the Singapore cause. They care deeply about our future and, most importantly, want to play a role in shaping it. This spirit of giving is also very much alive in Nee Soon East. Tan Meng, my CCC chairman and also my left leg, right hand man, exemplifies this. He leads a team of dedicated volunteers and has been a grassroots leader for 26 years now. He serves with his heart and handles every feedback and every case so passionately, so meticulously, and with compassion. And he does this every single day as a volunteer. 26 years ago, he was curious and wanted to see how he can help improve the community, and so he joined the CCC. 26 years later, he looks young as ever. Perhaps the secret in looking young is to volunteer more, and I know he will volunteer more and continue to serve till his last breath. Siti Duria is equally committed, and I first met her when I was visiting a refugee camp in Aceh. I met this young lady who was so passionate about helping people that she used her precious time off from work and her salary to volunteer to help others. A physiotherapist by training, she was in Aceh to conduct developmental assessment for refugee children and teach them English. So it really has been a privilege working with Melissa, Tan Meng and Siti, Singaporeans who embody the spirit of giving, who volunteer to give their time to help others. And there are others who are so devoted that they have chosen to make a career out of it. I recently met Dr. Sudan Nair when I joined President Halima to open Safe Spaces, a child protection specialist center run by PAVE. The stories they shared with us that they were heart-wrenching. The children made cards for President Halima, and in one card, the child wrote about how she watched her father strangle her mother. It takes a very strong heart to be able to handle all these abuse cases every day. But Sudha spoke with so much passion and so much determination. I thought this executive director must be quite new to this, as she was so fresh, not jaded at all, and was bursting with positivity. But she's actually been a social worker for more than 30 years now. We are fortunate to have someone like her devoting her time towards ending family violence. We're also fortunate to have Kalai, who devotes his time to end animal cruelty. He has worked at ACRES for the past 7 years now. He was previously a volunteer with ACRES before I convinced him to join ACRES full-time. He took a pay cut to pursue his passion. He took a job where the office hours are 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. A lot of animals are indebted to him, from otters to owls, from pythons to pigeons, and most recently a dolphin. The recent dolphin rescue near Bedok Jetty was perhaps the best example of his level of commitment. He spent hours searching for that wild dolphin who needed our help. His hard work paid off, and he managed to find and free the dolphin from the fish nets the dolphin was entangled in. He gave that dolphin a second chance at life. So there are many, many more stories to share. So many more civil society activists I have met who work steadfastly to feed one mouth, educate one mind, and comfort one soul. The question is, how do we have more Melissa, Tanming, Siti, Sudha, and Kalai? How do we support their efforts more and strengthen this spirit of giving here in Singapore? Volunteerism is increasing steadily. The National Volunteer and Philanthropy Centre, or NVPC, found that 1 in 3 Singaporeans volunteered in 2016, up from 1 in 10 in the year 2000. And we have SG Cares, a brilliant initiative to increase acts of kindness and volunteerism. To further increase volunteerism and sustain it, perhaps we first need to take a step back and study the effectiveness of our school-based volunteer programs. It is important as that lays the foundation in our use for volunteerism. Mr. Kwan Jin Yao raised several points about this, including, quote, to what extent does involvement in value in action, VIA, community involvement programs, CIP, and service learning projects affect whether students continue volunteering after graduation? Are students who chalked up a higher number of VIA or CIP hours more likely to volunteer for a social cause after leaving school? End of quote. Ms. Tan Rong Ying's view was that, quote, it is important to reconsider the rewards and mandatory aspects of volunteerism in schools so as to increase and make clearer students' intrinsic motivations. This could encourage them to willingly volunteer more often during their school days and after graduation, thereby promoting a culture of active volunteerism. End of quote. There are good VIA programs, like the one at Hougang Secondary. Rather than introducing volunteer work through ad hoc projects at Hougang Secondary, it's a way of school life, a life of volunteerism that is inculcated from the very beginning. And they we reviews our school-based volunteer programs and see if there is still a need to make it compulsory and provide rewards. I also hope that we can consider giving people more time to volunteer. Time is perhaps the most valuable commodity in today's world, and lack of time is the most common reason given for not volunteering. NVPC has found that volunteerism rates drop once people enter the workforce. To ensure the flames of volunteerism is not extinguished by the demands of work, employers are a key partner in building a nation of volunteers. We need to follow the positive example set by Salesforce Singapore, which offers 7 days of volunteer leave annually. They have a particularly successful volunteer scheme, with all of their employees making use of their volunteer leave in 2016 and clocking in more than 11,000 volunteer hours. I hope the public service, as the largest employer, can take the lead by extending the 1-day volunteer leave currently given to public servants and consider allowing them to use their leave in blocks of hours instead of full days. So we can also strengthen this spirit of giving by strengthening our engagement and collaboration with civil society. As John McKee nicely put it, quote, a healthy society rests on 3 pillars: business, government, and civil society or non-profits. Each has a distinct and important role to play, and all 3 need to work together synergistically to create the most value for society. End of quote. Given the insights that civil society can bring to the table with their ground experience, I hope they can be better represented on the boards of our statutory boards. As Professor Tomiko stated, quote, when we appoint people to boards, we can also appoint challengers who are subversive and who have alternative points of views. That's the kind of cultural change we want to see. It makes Singapore stronger, not weaker. End of quote. I don't believe we hold the key to the best ideas. Rather, the best ideas are out there. I hope we can build more regular channels for dialogue between the government and civil society. Already there are many instances of fruitful dialogues. One example is the roundtable discussions that Muir conducted to engage green groups to galvanize action and efforts for the Year of Climate Action. Participants shared with me that they came out of the session with greater optimism and a better understanding of the government's efforts to tackle climate change. Another recent instance was IMDA's consultation with filmmakers on amendments to the Film Act. IMDA had extended the consultation period upon request and had taken on board the suggestions by filmmakers in the final wording of the bill. Jasmine Ng, one of the filmmakers I worked with, commented in a Facebook post that, quote, she really does appreciate this engagement with IMDA and with you, and the other MPs has been authentic, end of quote. I was particularly struck by her comment that, quote, we felt that we were heard and understood, even though we may variously disagree on some points, end of quote. Indeed, even where there is disagreement over the outcome, there is greater acceptance of the end result when civil society understands and the reasons for the government's actions and policies. As such, I hope that ministries consider making consultations with civil society organizations a regular part of policy and lawmaking process. So recently I was at an informal dialogue session between public servants and civil society activists. It was a beautiful session, to say the least. Both sides gained a better understanding of each other's concerns, challenges and constraints. Most of all, both sides realized that we are all on the same side, on the same boat. So a stronger civil society will mean a stronger Singapore and a stronger spirit of giving. Ultimately, we can fire up and mobilize the spirit and energy of Singaporeans if we engage more, consider more alternative points of views, empower more, inspire more, and ensure that people have time to give back when they are mobilized. So there truly is beauty in giving more than receiving, and this strong culture of giving is very much needed. Let me end with a quote as always. Nelson Mandela said, quote, there can be no greater gift than that of giving one's time and energy to help others without expecting anything in return, end of quote. I was going to end with that quote, but then I realized that actually, while we don't expect anything in return, sometimes we do stumble upon something valuable. Sometimes we find true love. And this was the case for Joseph and Jingyi. Jingyi was volunteering at Acres in 2012 when she met Joseph, who was working at Acres. They both gave their heart and soul towards helping animals, and they also gave their hearts to each other. They got married 2 Saturdays ago. And so for all the singles out there, start volunteering and you might find your true love. Better still, Acres has quite a good track record, so volunteer with Acres and you will find your true love while helping to strengthen this spirit of giving. So I support the motion of thanks to the President.